Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast with us today is Mike Kawula. He is the co-founder of two different types of entities. So one is going to be the podcast that he has called Entrepreneurs GSD, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then he also is the co-founder of a company called Dinner Table MBA, which he will talk a little bit more about that too. So welcome to the podcast with us today, Mike.
I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Mike, we want you to get us started and kind of just fill in a little bit of the blanks for us. Give us a little more detail about where your focus is right now as an entrepreneur.
Sure. So I am focused pretty much 100% on a company called Dinner Table MBA. And our goal with the company is to serve parents the winning ingredients to really help their kids win at life. So to us, there's a lot more for people winning at life than what is taught inside the four walls of our education system. So we go over a lot of different things like how to deal with anxiety, how to deal with stress, how to, handle coming in second and realizing that it's okay to come in second, but to get back at it and try to go for first again next time. So we go through a lot of these different things, and we do it with leading psychiatrists, therapists, and coaches throughout the world, and bring them on to a podcast and also through a private membership area.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to kind of hearing some of the tough decisions you've had to make along your journey. So, without further ado, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about first a tough decision that you've had to make along your journey as an entrepreneur that, really didn't turn out so well for you. I call it like the sore thumb tough decision and some of the lessons that you might have learned through that one.
I've had dozens and dozens. I've been an entrepreneur now 20 years. So I've had, several wins, and I've had several lessons also. So ones that stand out to me is a recent one. And that's my previous company was a software business where for the first time we went out and actually got funding. And in the past, I have always started my businesses where I own 100%, and therefore I can make 100% of the decisions, or I'll have a partner, but I'll still always be the majority shareholder. This was the first time where I wasn't. And, with that said, we had a board of directors. There was a founder that owned more shares than I did. And unfortunately, recently there was a lot of disagreements amongst us on where we saw the future of the business going. It put me in a tough decision because they offered me an opportunity to pretty much quadruple my salary and equity in another company if I was to come on board. But it was something that it wasn't something I believed in. It wasn't something I was passionate about. And I had to make that tough decision. And I had to walk away from, equity in a company that I owned and be at the beginning again and start over. So, kind of like the tough decision or big lesson is, if you're going to take on investors or work with other folks, just make sure it's people that align with your vision and that you're really comfortable with. This is something that I think I just jumped in bed with the wrong person way too fast.
Or, you can also structure in a way where, because a lot of times I see, in the very beginning, people are on the same page. And then as the money starts to flow, sometimes things shift. And that's kind of where some of the things start to turn in other directions. But, sometimes, when you bring on investors, it's a good idea to maybe, make them limited partners where they don't have any decision-making power and don't really have a seat at the table when it comes to directing it. It's a little bit, more difficult to find those kind of investors because they don't have any ability to direct anything, but that's another option too.
100% correct.
So let's shift and talk about a tough decision that you made that had a really good and positive outcome and some of the lessons you learned through that one.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy this one and just doing some research before jumping on this podcast, I see that you've been, both of you, involved in dropshipping. So
yes, very heavily.
Love it. I had a dropshipping company out of Dallas, Georgia, and had that for 4 years. The company did real well, but throughout that time, prior to that, I owned a cleaning company. So I had 50 residential cleaners throughout South Jersey. I knew nothing about the online world, but I partnered with somebody who knew how to create websites and do a lot of the back-end tech work. And I went out, and within 3 years, we were selling over 200,000 different products on our website. Company was doing well. We had 3 warehouses. Long story short, there's a saying on Wall Street. They say the bulls, the bears make money, the pigs get slaughtered. So as you know, in the drop shipping business, the margins aren't as healthy as if you were to own the merchandise yourself, right? And do the shipping yourself most of the time. So we sourced these mops from China and brought them here into the U.S. And we did a small test. We did around 100 mops, 100 units, and blew through them in a day. And we're like, oh my God, this is great. So we ordered a half a container, and sure enough, within a week, blew through half the container. So I went ahead and placed an order 6 figures for a full container of these mops. So these mops were coming from China. It's a 6-week process. They hit the ports in Edison, New Jersey. Were about to be shipped to my warehouses in South Jersey when I got served with a cease and desist because they were actually being sourced in a plant that was owned by, as seen on TV, Kevin Harrington. So we did not know that. And, again, a lot of different times throughout my entrepreneurial career, I've been punched in the face, and you fall to the ground. And, the question is do you get up and run? Do you just stay down, or do you get up and find a way out of it? And so what I've learned to do is, to kind of step away when we get punched in the face and maybe kind of just go for a walk, try to think things through. And that's what I did. And, as I was walking out of my office, I heard one of my customer service reps on the phone saying to somebody, I don't know if we have that part. I don't even think anybody has that part. And for whatever reason, that kept sticking in my head. And so as I was going for my walk, I went home that night, had a drink with my wife, was sitting there talking, and it just popped in my head. I said, I had a cease and desist that I couldn't sell the unit, but there was no reason why I couldn't have the units taken apart and sell the parts. And so that's what we did. And we ended up making much more money than we would selling the actual unit in and of itself, because parts you make much more money on. But, it was a lesson that I learned about drop shipping. And if I'm going to source products, know where the heck I'm getting it from. But, the big lesson for me was walk away sometimes and, allow yourself to just kind of walk through the situation instead of just panicking.
Well, it's interesting because I'm sitting here thinking about, there's a quote that would fit right in along with that. And I can't remember the quote, but, it also reminds me of the, I don't know if it's a quote. It's really more of a song that I've heard in the past called, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. And I think, in this particular situation, that's exactly what you did, because not only were you handed lemons that you couldn't do anything with, but you turned it into something that you could actually, market and sell.
100%. And, we made so much more money doing that. But, just after that, I realized, hey, this isn't for me. And I went back to, just the regular drop shipping and solid relationships that I had. So we did source some products where, direct from like Hoover vacuums and a couple of carpet extracting companies, and those were kept in the warehouses. But after that, we're like, we are not going to be ordering stuff from overseas in large, 6-figure quantities unless we're actually going to go over there and take a look at who we're ordering from.
That is such a cool story. I'm just sitting here smiling just because it's just so neat to hear, you take something difficult like that and just get away from it, as you said, and look at it from a different perspective and find the way out of it. I don't know if this is the quote that Dan was talking about, but we did have somebody on the podcast earlier say that the boardroom is a terrible place to make a really important decision. And I think it's because, you get to where you only look at things from one perspective. And when the solution might be really simple, you just got to get out of the situation and look at it from a different angle or a different perspective. And that's a really cool story. Talk a little bit about the strategies and techniques that you use to make difficult decisions.
Well, I think it falls back to that. And one of I think what would be more beneficial is the way I start my day every day. So, I'm an early morning riser. I don't stay up very late. So I'm up in between 4:30, 5 in the morning, sometimes earlier. But the way I start my day is I go for a 2-hour walk every morning. I watch the sun come up. And, during that walk, I'm, listening to a podcast or two. I am listening to typically an Audible CD. And then I do something that a lot of us don't do. And, I try to even encourage my kids to do. And that's just hit pause and listen to nothing other than just, the silence around me. And at times, that's when I do some of my greatest thinking. So traditionally, I'll be back and, to my home around 7, say hi to the fam if they're off to school or what have you. And, then just step into my office. But it's those early morning times alone. And so when I have to make a tough decision on anything, I remember an old mentor of mine always said, don't make a decision for at least 24 hours. there's nothing that important that we really need to just jump, and make that immediate decision. Occasionally, maybe if I have to fire somebody or what have you, but it's those 24 hours and that time of maybe just that morning of that silence and walking through something that will help me make so much clearer decisions. Because to what you said also is, when you're in that boardroom sometimes, or wherever you are involved in a problem and, in your business and in life, you might not be looking at it clearly. So sometimes if you can, step away, have some silence, maybe speak to somebody who you respect, make sure that it's not somebody that's a naysayer that's just going to, fill your head with more negativity, because that's not what you need, but can help you maybe take a look at something in a different perspective. I think it's Anthony Robbins that says, no matter how thin you slice something, there's always two sides, right? So I always try to step on that other person's side too, to see how they might be looking at it and see if maybe I could position it a different way so that it's a win-win situation for both of us.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and hear from one of our show sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk to Mike about some of his favorites as they relate to his life as an entrepreneur.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. And we are back with Mike Kawula, and we're going to be going through the trifecta, which is a series of quick questions and answers about some favorites that you have in business. So start us off, Mike, and talk to us about your most favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier.
Oh my God, I don't even know how they do this product for free, but it is called, and I've got several, but my favorite is Trello, Trello, project management tool that my team uses, and I even use it with my kids. It's just a fantastic tool. It's easy to use and it's free.
And what is a favorite quote that you've heard that's helped you as an entrepreneur?
This quote was left on my desk by my father in 1993, and it said, good things come to those who wait, but only those things left over by those who hustle. It's an Abraham Lincoln quote. My father left that for me. We had a disagreement that night, and I had gone back to, I was working at Allstate Insurance at the time, and I came home. He was in bed already. He left me that quote. It means a lot to me because it's the way I run my life. I move fast, I hustle, but also my father passed away that night in his sleep. I just think the universe was speaking to me in a very special way, because what a message to have left from a parent to their child, just about hustle and life in general.
And what is one book that you've read that you would recommend to other entrepreneurs?
The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murray.
And what's the next thing for you right now on your vision or dream board?
Biggest vision right now is getting 10,000 families into what I call the dinner table MBA, and MBA stands for Masters of Being Awesome Powerhouse. And it's a community that we spoke about earlier where families can just, there's no owner's manual for kids. And, it's tough today, especially more than ever. There's, more noise around us. There's more distractions around us, what have you. And our goal is to really get out there and help as many families as possible in helping develop our leaders of tomorrow.
Well, and how can the listeners, after they listen to this episode, get a hold of you, start to follow you, and contact you after they listen?
Yeah, sure. So I'm very active on Twitter. We reply to everybody. It's Mike, last name Kawula, Kawula, or head on over to Dinner Table MBA. If you've got children, we've got a 31 questions you can ask your kids other than how was school. This is a fun document. It's 41 pages, and it's just a ton of cool questions and stories and lessons for kids that everybody just seems to love. So check that out.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today on the podcast. Looking forward to having you on a future episode as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur.
We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.